SEC and the Big Ten done. Welcome, Mark Rogers TV's college football analysis of all the Power 5 conference schedules to the ACC. And we start with, by the luck of the draw, the Miami Hurricanes, who started off 2013, I believe, at 6 or maybe 7-0 off the top of my head, had the wake-up call against Florida State, and then by the end of the season could not defeat teams like Duke, who, of course, went to the championship game in Miami's division. All right, let's run down the Canes schedule. First of all, look at the non-conference and more specifically look at those non-division games. Because again, in the ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC, it depends on who you play in the other division makes a huge difference in regards to comparing schedules within division play. So for Miami, let's look at the non-conference. Louisville, right off the bat, tough game for the Canes. They play a back-to-back of sorts against the Louisville Cardinals, much like USC and Fresno State, who played in the bowl game last season. The Bulldogs and the Trojans open up 2014. Same thing with the Canes against now conference rival Louisville. So that game at Louisville, so the Canes open up with a difficult one on the road, minus Teddy Bridgewater, but the Cardinals will be a fringe top 25 club, it would appear, in 2014 with Bobby Petrino back on the sideline. All right, then they stay out of conference. And actually, I like this, that they play the 4 non-conference games, or they play 3 of the 4 non-conference to start the season. Almost took Louisville again as a non-conference opponent, but 3 of the 4, and then a little bit later against Cincinnati. So the next 3 weeks out of conference, Florida A&M, a pretty tough Red Wolves team at Arkansas State, coming to Miami Gardens, and then the Canes go to Nebraska. So the 1984 Orange Bowl footage, then the Orange Bowls from the late 80s into 1991, and then when Nebraska finally defeated Miami in the Orange Bowl to win the national championship after the 1994 season. All that footage is going to come back the week of September 20th when the Canes go to Nebraska. I think this is a decent measuring stick for both the ACC and the Big Ten. You're talking about probably the 5th or 6th best teams in each conference matching up in Lincoln. Huskers and Canes both have some quarterback questions and are on teetering between, are they upper division in their league, or are they just an also-ran who's just barely going to make it to postseason play with 7 or 8 wins? Are these 7-5, 8-4 clubs, or can they challenge the big boys in the Big Ten and the ACC respectively? Good measuring stick here, Miami at Nebraska in week 4. Then we get back to ACC play with a game at Duke. Actually, that Duke matchup at Miami Gardens. So that was a key loss for the Canes in 2013 as they could not reach the conference championship game as expected earlier in the season against Florida State. They lost to Duke, were dominated in the second half, led that game 10-0 and 17-7. Blew the 10-point lead, got crushed in the end by Duke, 48-30, and that was a bit of a wake-up call. And a wake-up call for most of us, perceiving from the outside the ACC, where we thought Miami, not Florida State, quite that level, but we thought and put a little bit more value and stock in Miami football until they lost to Duke. And then we gave the Blue Devils their due credit after that big win at Miami. So again, it's Duke, Miami, and that game on September 27th. Continuing in conference play, Georgia Tech. That will be a difficult game for the Canes in Atlanta. Then they step back out of conference, not with an elite program, but again, in the realm of Nebraska, maybe a step down in playing Cincinnati, that game at Miami. So it's the Bearcats and the Hurricanes from days gone by in the Big East. Cincinnati and Miami. So Miami's non-conference schedule, I think, is pretty respectable here. Again, the game at Nebraska, they play Cincinnati at home, and those are basically the 2 toughies. Florida A&M got to get an automatic win in there against the Rattlers, and then you've got Arkansas State, which I don't expect to give the Canes a very difficult time, but Arkansas State's pretty good. They are pretty good, and Miami will have to show up and play close to 4 quarters of football, you would think. All right, back to conference play after 2 weeks off after the Cincinnati game. Miami plays a key division matchup against Virginia Tech. The Hokies on the fringe of the top 25 coming off that 8-5 campaign. There's much debate over whether Virginia Tech's going to be much good this season. The schedule sets up fairly well in conference for the Hokies, so Virginia Tech, Miami could play into the division race on October 23rd. You got the North Carolina game The preseason coaches top 25 poll came out a couple days ago. In addition to Florida State at 1, Clemson at 16, you had North Carolina, the only third ACC team making it into the top 25 at number 23. Then the big matchup against Florida State. The Canes will be a huge favorite, you would think, unless things drastically change between now and then. The game at Miami against Florida State, November 15th. Then they finish up with two very winnable games against 2-10 Virginia from last season and a game at home against Pitt. So again, let's look at non-conference. 2-2 at worst. They should go at least 3-1. Maybe they go to Nebraska. Nebraska is certainly beatable, so the Canes could go 4-0 non-conference. Then you look at the conference, and the two out-of-division games, they catch a bit of a difficult time in taking on Louisville and Florida State, two of the tougher teams, and of course Florida State, possibly the best team in the country. So Miami plays everybody in its division. The out-of-division games are pretty difficult, again, in Florida State and Louisville. So there you have it for the Canes. I think it's probably a 7-5 football team this season. They're still trying to figure things out at quarterback, most likely going with a senior. They've got the stud freshman coming in as well. He may get a look if things don't get off to a good start, or barring injury as well. Canes fans, let's talk up the U and their schedule outlook, with Cincinnati, Nebraska highlighting the non-conference and, of course, the date against Florida State at home in November. Louisville to start things off on September 1st on a Monday night. Louisville and Miami. Can't wait to see that one. Let's talk about it right here on Mark Rogers TV.